So Matt Wilkinson here in person. First of all, thanks for coming to the show. You're a real
We're here.
friend.
Hey, that's what we've got, man. It's a good deal we got together.
Have we ever shook hands before?
I don't know, but we got to shake hands today, so that makes the moment.
Normally we hug,
Yeah.
but that would be an awkward
This is-
intro on TV.
In this space, yeah, I think so. It's good, man.
Man.
His shave worked.
Like Matt Wilkinson, you are a true friend. And for those who don't know, you are on the front line of youth ministry. And this is not something that just started last week. You have been on the front line of youth ministry for a very long time. How did you get into it? Why did you say yes many years ago to giving your life to serving youth across Canada?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I knew I was going to go into youth ministry or the investment into youth ministry, but investment into caring about youth actually started when I was a youth. The reality was at my high school, I had a real passion of like, I wanted to see my friends know Jesus. And so I thought there is something life-giving, there's something hopeful in a world that's chaotic and crazy and nuts and that there's a peace, there's a joy, there's a hope, there's a redemption that in Jesus. And I'm like, how do my friends know this? Began when I was 15, 16, reaching out to my high school. And that started to take off and friends responded to Jesus and launching a conference to equip peers. How do teens reach each other? A little did I know that that was going to be the start of a journey of going, hey, I actually care about youth continuing to know they matter, that they can engage each other, moving closer to Jesus. And so I think that's where it started, a passion for youth work. Didn't know that youth ministry would be a direction that I would end up in after high school. But that's where kind of it started, I think, and then emerged from there.
That's incredible. As a youth doing youth ministry, we're so used to saying you can't do youth ministry until you get your degree or master's and 10 years of experience, and then you go do formal youth ministry. And here you are as a high school kid seeing the need for people to know Jesus, and you did something about it. Good for you. Now the cool thing is you're still doing something about it, and why do you keep saying yes to youth ministry here and now?
Uh, I really think that youth ministry matters. Why does it matter? Because youth matter. Youth need to know that they matter. Youth need to know that they belong. Youth need to know that they're heard. And as the church and followers of Jesus, and I look at Jesus' example of like, let the little children come to me. Let the next generation engage with me. Let's pour into the next generation. There was just that passion that Jesus modeled, like, let's engage next generation and they lead, live, experience Jesus now. It's formative years of people making what their values are through life, what's important, what matters, is formative in these younger years of life. And so investing into that area was not a stepping stone to anything. It was going, this is the greatest opportunity I've got, is to be able to pour in to let young people know that they mattered. Because when I was in grade 10 and I had doubts, I doubting the Christian journey and yet also leading people to Jesus, which is a weird thing of like, is this the real deal? At the same time going, I think you really should buy into this, that this Jesus guy is the real deal. But it had people around, youth workers, it had other people around me that were investing into me, believing in me. And they saw leadership in me. They saw that I was someone that needed to know Jesus more. They were willing to allow me to ask questions and doubt and wrestle. And maybe it's a little bit of a pay it forward constantly of, hey, someone else gave me the space to wrestle, to doubt, to struggle, but to still keep my eyes fixed on Jesus. How do we continue to help churches, leaders, continue to say, hey, next generation matters. Let's be present with them. Let's journey with them, meet them where they're at, rather than drag them to where we want to be, and help people think about youth ministry just a little differently.
I love that. And when it comes to church today, as a speaker, sometimes I go to churches and speak, and you can see respectfully churches that know that youth matter and other churches that kind of put youth ministry on the back burner, just kind of a program, to say we're reaching young people, but not really pouring that energy into them. How do they make youth matter? What would you say to church and church leaders that are making youth ministry kind of like secondary in their church experience on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I say the in there is to think about, hey, someone invested into you as a leader. whether you're talking your deacons board, your elders board, whether you're talking to church parishioners, yourself as a leader, remembering that at some point someone invested into you. And you have the chance now to be able to, from whatever role you're in, wherever you're at, to also invest into others. Prioritizing that as your church is saying, hey, they're going to be somewhere in the next 20 years. Are they going to be involved in the life of the church? Are they going to be involved in helping others know Jesus? Are they going to be involved in living out the gospel of Jesus and the hope that Jesus offers in our world? That's not going to be in 20 years if we don't make that moment happen in their life then. So if we're present with them then, we're setting them up for a greater chance that that could be what's going to happen, and where you may have a passion for in your church for where they're at 20 years older, where they're at when they hit their 20s, their 30s, their 40s onwards. And that could be great. And if that's where your passion is, awesome. Make sure you're setting up, though, that space where people are going to come around those to set people up for saying, you matter right now for who you are, not to where you can be, because we're excited to see where God's going to take you. But we care about where you matter, who you are in this moment, in this time, and we're going to walk with you in this phase of life for you.
And I love that term, walk with them. Youth ministry is not necessarily just a program, but how do you create this culture in the church where people are walking with them? And you're right. We look at it as 4 years in high school and maybe 2 years junior high, 6 years together. But what you're doing there could be the difference of them being in church in 10 years when they're 30, 40, 50. And I love exactly what you're saying. And I encourage every church, like, don't make youth ministry, put it on the backboard burner. Don't just make it a secondary ministry. Make this like the fountain of, like, what we do, where everyone kind of take part in and be a part of. And I absolutely love this. We're going to kind of segue, into a break in a second. But if you are watching us, maybe you have a youth, and maybe that youth is not connected to church, and it's a burden on your heart. Listen, for you, maybe you need someone to talk to, and maybe you need someone to pray for you or pray for that young person. Maybe it's a grandkid, maybe it's your own kid, maybe it's a friend of yours who is young. We want you to know that we have a 24/7, 24 hours a day prayer line, and you can call and talk to a real person, and they can pray for this young person. Because Matt's heart and my heart is to see young people know Jesus, and we both believe in youth ministry. We both believe that youth ministry matters, and maybe they're the youth that matter to you that need some prayer. So pick up that phone and make a phone call, and we'll be back in a few minutes to talk about this amazing conference Matt is a part of called Today's Teens.
Hey, welcome to The Perspective. Mike Sherbino here. We're glad you're with us.
It's all right here. Watch when you want, where you want.
Well, welcome to The Perspective. I'm Lori.
Real stories, honest questions, a fresh perspective, right where you are.
Today, take time to relish
The Perspective. Follow, like, share. You're part of the mission.
So welcome back. Today's guest, Matt Wilkinson. He was just talking about why youth ministry matters to him and why we need to make sure it matters to churches. One of the reasons and ways you invest in young people is running this incredible conference as the director. The conference is called Today's Teens Conference, and it's happening February 28th, 2026. Can you tell us a little bit more? Like, tell us about the history of the conference, because my understanding, it's the longest running youth worker conference in Canada. So how did that start? What was the vision behind it? And tell us, about it.
Yeah, well, it started a little over 40 years ago, so it's a long-running deal. And I was around early on, a little baby at that point when it first started, and it was actually started by my dad, John Wilkinson. It was really launching off the whole idea of youth ministry as a profession, as we could see youth workers really step into the realm of leading within churches in that way, moving from young people's into youth ministry, and so. the idea of the degree program, get trained in youth work, launching a conference of like, how do we effectively train youth workers, both volunteer youth workers, the paid youth pastor, community workers that are investing into youth work, youth ministry idea. How do we equip them to be trained, to really continue to do it? The world is constantly changing. Youth culture is constantly changing. So the idea that we may step in at one point, but we constantly are needing to be refreshed, equipped, resourced so that we can most effectively see young people move one step closer to Jesus all the time through what we're doing in our ministries. And so that's where Today's Teens launched out. Dad ran that for a number of years. And then somewhere along the way, a conference I was running called the Light Conference, which is Lessons in Teen Evangelism, equipping teens on how to share their faith with their peers. We then merged those two conferences into one. So the whole idea is that student leaders could get trained on one day, youth workers could all be trained on one day, all under one roof. And so we brought together, we kept the name, the Today's Teens Conference, and we continue to carry that on. It's been in different venues over the year, all around kind of the greater Toronto area. And that has been aimed at saying, how do we make an incredibly affordable youth ministry training conference, but bring in top level communicators, trainers, so that we can give the best to youth workers who many are coming from a place of a minimal church budget or volunteering, and say, just because you have a minimal church budget or just because you are volunteering doesn't mean that you shouldn't get top level training, because the kids deserve that. And so that's been the trajectory of Today's Teens. And then along that is the whole student element in there of equipping students on how do you live out your faith and impact your peers right now. And so that's a little bit of history. That's where we're caught up to right here.
In over 40 years in running. Wow, that's incredible. And I've had the privilege to speak at the conference and MC and, join the team. And just to be honest, Matt has, I think, an all-star team of leaders. But he always says, like, these are my friends, it's just some of them have talents, all the other ones have skills. I'm just there for the fun ride, right? But you develop this incredible leadership team. And in my opinion, to put together one of the most unique conferences, like you said, this is a youth leader conference and student leader conference all in one. It kind of happens, somehow all fits into one another, where the students are in the main sanctuary and people are learning, as leaders are learning in the classroom, and somehow you're able to switch it and everyone eats at the same time. And I don't know how you do it, but I think it's one of the most incredible conferences that I've ever been a part of. And I think it goes back to you realizing, first of all, not everyone who does youth ministry has formal Bible college education or a training. Some of them do, but even if they did, some of that training was like 10 years ago. The culture keeps changing. Young people keep changing. Like the way they think, their world views, what they're interacting with on a regular basis changes over and over. And I think today teens is on the front line of trying to help equip these people, whether they went to Bible college or whether you're a volunteer leader, to equip them to do youth ministry effectively. For you, when it comes to youth leaders, there's someone in your life a long time ago who came alongside you as a youth leader and made an impact on you. Can you share a little bit more about who that person was and what that looked like?
Yeah, his name's Andrew Felker. And so when I was 12 years old at a retreat, I put my hand up of saying, the speaker said, hey, if you got anything, blah, 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 you want to chat to somebody, put your hand up. I put my hand up, and I was connected with this leader, Andrew. Andrew, by trade, is a lawyer, but by calling, he's a volunteer youth worker. We connected there when I was 12 years old, and began a place where I look at him as a mentor. He spoke into my life. He was there in high moments. He was there in low moments. When I had doubts and struggles, I could call him up. We used to go out crazy late at night. I give him a call, like, we gotta get together. He had an agreement with my parents. He could pick me up there, and we would go out for Tim Hortons, and I get a vanilla dip and a peach juice, and he would get his double. And I knew that was a space that was a safe person, who was a Christian that I could chat with. And he was instrumentally involved in my life, and realized the power of showing up, the power of being there, that it wasn't programmatic driven, but it was a guy who's saying, I'm committed to helping you move closer to Jesus. I believe in you. I'll walk with you. And now, a lot of years later, now at 46, Andrew is still a mentor in my life, someone that I can go to, someone that I can lean into, I can bounce things off of. It began in youth ministry when a guy was willing to say, hey, I know I'm a volunteer, but I believe you. I want to walk with you and see what God's got in store with you.
I love that. And correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew trained as a lawyer, incredible.
Yep.
He wasn't trained as a formal youth pastor.
No.
And here's a guy who has a heart to serve youth, has a heart to do youth ministry. And here you are, that God placed in his life. And he took that calling as a youth leader to walk with you and obviously make a huge impact in your life. And this is why I love today's teens so much. We bring together over 1,000 leaders who are like Andrew, who might not have all the qualification in the world, but they have that same heart, understanding youth matter. They need people to walk with them like Andrew did for you. And when it comes to today's teens coming up, February 28th, 2026, before the show ends, are you able to give us a little sneak peek of what this year is going to look like?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about. I mean, I love every year the opportunity of just people, a wide range of denominational denominations all coming together, and that's a safe place for us to go together to explore what it is to engage students. And the reality is that it can be encouraging to go. I'm not alone in doing youth work. My team needs to be resourced. I've always said to the people, hey, it's so easy. I want my doctor to make sure that they're always getting trained. I don't want them to just say, hey, I learned stuff 30 years ago, or I heard good things and I can tell you some great stories about good medical practices. I want them to be on the leading edge to look after my physical well-being. I see it. As youth workers, we're involved in the holistic development of students and looking after their whole lives. And so saying we need to continually be developed in how we can effectively move them closer to Jesus on what's happening, what's shifting, what's around us. So our theme this year is ordinary moments, eternal impact. And so what I love is that it's not just a big flashy moment that changes everything for kids. It's actually how is ordinary moments, our everyday moments, actually able to have an eternal impact in the lives of the kid. Youth workers, we got to look at it and discovering that that's what is life changing. That's where we're going to be finding making the biggest impact. But how do we show up and how do we do that? How do we find ourselves in those spaces? How do we engage those spaces? What do we need to know when we're in those spaces? What is good boundaries to have so we can maximize in those spaces? But how do we show up? And that's what I'm looking forward to. We've got incredible lineup of speakers. Our main stage is looking unbelievable, but breakout speakers, that's where I love where it gets practical. It actually, you walk away, it's not, hey, these are good ideas, but Monday morning you're putting stuff into practice. That's next Sunday you're putting stuff into practice, because we've got like 50 breakout speakers that many of them who've carried main stage themselves, but saying, hey, we want to offer practical insights. And so it's an experiential, it's both head knowledge, but it's hands-on. It is a fun day to be together. Great point of networking, connecting together and learning, so we go back to make an impact.
I love that, Matt. And thank you for giving your life to youth ministry and being on the front line and helping lead today's teen conference. So that is a little sneak preview of today's teens conference happening February 28th, 2026. And we want you there. If you are a youth leader, maybe you're a parent, maybe you work at a camp or in a school, you want to learn more about this youth culture, you can sign up at todaysteen.ca. We want to see you there and help you walk with young people like Andrew did with Matt, like people have done with myself. God wants to use you in these ordinary ways to make extraordinary impacts. Matt, thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out with you today. And thank you for sharing about why youth ministry matters to you and why it should matter to all of us. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.